Good evening, everyone. Welcome. My name is Shalaya Yazdi. I'm a public health practitioner and a Master's of Science student at Touro University. We have a lot going on now, so it could be really difficult to balance positivity, productivity, and self-care during such difficult times. But my mentor, Dr. Jay Shubrook, and I had come together to discuss how we can incorporate wellness tools into our own lives, and better yet, how we can share those with our community. So I'd like to thank you all for coming because I know that you're also interested in learning about this as well. So last week, we had discussed nutrition and how nutrition can impact our wellness. We started with a discussion of how to engage our children with cooking and making healthy choices, and also incorporating movement into their lives. And then we had a discussion about healthy food and how it can impact our wellness. What kinds of foods are the best for us? And our last discussion last week included carbohydrates. We discussed how carbohydrates can play a role in inflammation and chronic conditions. Now this week, we're going to shift gears and talk more about mind, body, and spirit. And today we start with body. We're going to discuss physical activity during the pandemic. On Wednesday, we will discuss more about stress management and mindfulness. Thursday, we will discuss mind, body, and spirit and how they're all connected. Next week, we'll discuss chronic condition management, prevention, and awareness. Following that, we're going to be entering the holiday season. And just before Thanksgiving, we're going to have a conversation about how we can make the best of the 2020 holiday season. Our very last webinar will be hosted on November 30th, where we're going to discuss all the highlights from the whole month of November. How can we integrate all that we've learned throughout the month into our busy routines? So tonight, I would like to introduce Maya Ramsey, my good friend and coworker, who is a community member and a leader of the Solano Diabetes Advisory Forum. And she is also a graduate of the Touro University School of Public Health. I'd also like to introduce Andrea Varias, who is a community member and a Master's of Medical Health Science student at Touro University. Thank you all for coming tonight. Let's zoom into wellness with Maya Ramsey and Andrea Varias.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much, Shalaya and Dr. Shubrook, for giving me the opportunity to speak to everybody tonight about physical activity in this time of the pandemic. And of course, Andrea has been very helpful, and we're going to hear from her tonight as well. So I hope you're all excited to talk a little bit about physical activity. But before we get started, I just first want to acknowledge that everyone's experience during this pandemic is very different, and it's been very unique, and staying physically and mentally healthy during this time is not easy. So I just want to acknowledge and appreciate each and every one of you for coming and participating in our discussion tonight and trying to stay active during this pandemic. And that brings me to my next point, which is I would like this to be an interactive session. I believe that one size doesn't fit all when it comes to physical activity. And so I'm hoping that this can be an opportunity for us to learn from each other. So I will be asking questions, and I would love for you to chime in the chat. Andrea will be helping us out with that. And if you have any questions throughout, feel free to put them in the Q&A, and we will answer those as we can. All right, so I'm going to start out with the first question. So go ahead and chime in the chat. So compared to before the pandemic, would you say that you are more active, less active, or about the same? Okay, so it seems like we see people who say they're about the same, way more active than before, lots of more active, same, less. Okay, so there's a variety. Excellent. About the same. Great, great, great. Okay, thank you. Looks like you all are going to be a very interactive audience, and I really appreciate that. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. All right, so I wanted to take an opportunity to first share a little bit about my story and these last couple of months during this pandemic. And hopefully that will encourage you to reflect on what this pandemic has been for you too when it comes to physical activity. Before the pandemic even started, getting physically active was something that I would do for about a month or a week at a time and go all in, and then I'd completely drop it. I would get too busy with work, or I would complain about the weather and not go outside. I could come up with every excuse to not get out and get moving. And I kind of thought when this pandemic started that it would kind of be the same thing. But then in March, when everything started to shut down, I had just been told that I had severely damaged some ligaments in my ankle and that I was going to be in a walking boot for the next 6 weeks. And at first I thought, oh, what a great opportunity and an excuse to not be physically active and slack off. And this all happened the Monday after everything shut down. And so as I left my doctor's office and I was heading home, I had this new accessory, my little boot, for the next 6 weeks. And I thought, well, this is great. I don't have to do anything. Even if I wanted to go play soccer or if I wanted to go to any exercise classes, I couldn't anyways. So I thought maybe it was a blessing in disguise. But as I pulled into my driveway that day and realizing that I was going to be stuck in my house because it was shelter in place at that time, a feeling of dread kind of sat in. It was that thought of, okay, I can't go do anything with my friends. I can't get out of my house. And even if I wanted to do the one thing that seems like is the safest to do, which is to go on a walk, it was difficult. A walking boot is not as easy to walk in as you may think. So at that point, I thought to myself, okay, by my next follow-up appointment, when I was going to get my boot off in 6 weeks, I wanted to accomplish something for myself other than just watching all of the seasons of Grey's Anatomy again, which I did anyways, but I wanted to accomplish something else. So in a world of uncertainty, I had this overwhelming feeling that I wanted to control something in my life, and the thing that I wanted to control was my health. So leave it to the pandemic for me to finally find my consistency in working out. And I am still, it's an ongoing process, but I just wanted to share with you that I've been through a journey on this pandemic and such a world of uncertainty. And I hope that this helps you reflect on what things looked like before the pandemic started for you and where you're at now. All right, so let's jump into some of the recommendations. The American Heart Association recommends that we get 150 minutes per week of moderate intensity aerobic activity or 75 minutes of vigorous activity. This breaks down to about 30 minutes of moderate intensity 5 days a week or 15 minutes of vigorous activity 5 days a week. So moderate activity is something that will get your heart beating faster, you will breathe harder, but you should still be able to talk. So think of moderate as kind of medium. Examples of moderate activity is briskly walking, gardening, house chores, tennis, doubles tennis, and my favorite is dancing. Vigorous intensity takes more effort. You will begin to feel warm in your body and you'll start to sweat. It will be much more difficult for you to talk without getting out of breath. So examples of vigorous activity is hiking uphill, swimming, heavy yard work, jumping rope, running, and cycling. So when you're first starting out, this can seem a little overwhelming, from going maybe from doing nothing to 30 minutes 5 days a week. And so it's recommended that you gradually work your way up to getting the recommended move minutes every week. So if that means you do small little spurts or you limit the days that you're moving, whatever it takes for you to get up to the recommended minutes. All right, so we know what's recommended, but why? What are some of the benefits of working out and getting physically active? So there are many benefits to increasing your physical activity. For example, lowering your risk of heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, dementia, and Alzheimer's. And if those aren't enough, of course, it can help you with getting better sleep, helping improve your cognition, your memory, your attention. It can help with less weight gain and obesity related conditions. And also it can help improve balance by decreasing the risk of injuries from falls. There's so many different benefits for getting physically active. On top of all of those that I've mentioned, it's just better quality of life and well-being. So there are a lot of reasons why to get moving. So the next question that we have posed to you is, in general, do you believe people are more active or less active than before the pandemic? And go ahead and chime in the chat. Let's see. Less active. Great. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to dive a little bit into the research with Andrea, and she's going to hopefully answer that question for us. Andrea?
All right, thank you, Maya. Now, regarding the predicament we have all found ourselves living with this past year, we figured it'd be worthwhile to pull a few recent studies to show some data on the effects that COVID-19 has had on us all, specifically through the lens of physical activity. Now, to start, here we have a study that was led by an assistant professor and cardiologist at UCSF. This team looks specifically at changes in the number of daily walking steps, a proxy, you would say, for physical activity, pre and post COVID pandemic declaration. The y-axis you see here on your screen is percent change from baseline steps, and the x-axis follows a 6-month span of dates referencing to dates earlier this year. A thing to note about this study is it marked March 11th being the date of COVID declaration. So the graph to the left compares US cities nationwide. As we can see, their results show about a 20 to 30% drop in reported daily steps across all US cities around the start of COVID. The graph to the right shows a similar comparison, but across cities worldwide. We see a similar pattern shown, albeit a wider spread, with some worldwide cities showing up to 40 to even 50% of a drop in daily steps recorded. Next slide, please. Here we see a different study which surveyed parents across 35 US states. This survey looked at parents' perceptions of their own children's physical activity and sedentary behaviors pre-COVID-19 and post-declaration. What's notable about this graph to the left is that specifically with the 9 to 13 age group, as you can see indicated by striped bars, there was a high percentage, about 47% of parents reporting that their child, 9 to 13 years of age, was much less physically active now than before. Now, looking at the graph to the right, we see what parents thought of their children's sedentary behavior. As we see, the bars over the much more and somewhat more categories were elevated in both age groups, indicating that children across age groups were being perceived by their parents to either be somewhat more or much more sedentary in their behaviors now than pre-COVID. Now, with the same study on the next slide, researchers looked closely at the older age group of the two, so the group 9 to 13 years of age, and specifically looked at where physical activity was happening pre and post COVID declaration. The solid bars on this graph refer to locations pre-COVID, while the striped bars refer to locations post-COVID. The higher the bar, the more percentage of children active at this location. From this graph, we see a substantial decline in physical activity in parks, trails, sports facilities, and gyms. In contrast, we see an increase in physical activity at home, either in the garage, yard, driveway, and even around a person's local neighborhood. And this makes sense, as may not be surprising to many, considering there are so many school closures and so many team sports and activity class cancellations that we hear of. So it's just interesting to see where predominant locations of physical activity have shifted during this time. Next slide, please. All right, here we have another study which surveys changes in physical activity along with other behavioral factors. These tables have a lot of numbers, but to help with understanding, if we look at the bottom table, anything bolded between two categories with a low p-value show a statistically significant association between the two. I've highlighted two significant associations revealed with physical activity. You can see those marked with red circles on your screen. Now, the first association was reported to be between student status and a general decline in activity, meaning a greater number of students than expected reported being a lot less physically active than others. And interestingly, a second association that was significant but inversely related was between a person's COVID-19 household status and being physically active. So a person's household that was either suspected of or had COVID-19 was more likely associated with more physical activity post-lockdown. That was quite interesting. The paper didn't dive deeper into the reasons as to why the second association exists, but I thought it was just an interesting tidbit to share. Next slide, thank you. Lastly, we have a study here from the UK looking at total mood disturbances and physical activity during lockdown. Total mood disturbance scores were based off of a scale called POMS, POMS meaning Profile of Mood States. This scale surveys a person on factors of confusion, tension, depression, fatigue, and anger. And as you can see on the graph here, the leftmost bar reveals a greater negative mood score associated with those who reported a lot less physical activity during lockdown. Now, in this study, they also found that changes in physical activity during lockdown had the clearest link to negative mood states, physical activity, along with diet and sleep. So a lot of research out there on how COVID has potentially changed not only our levels of physical activity, but also how these changes could affect other factors in our lives, such as mood and other behaviors. So that's it for research. I'm going to pass it on to Maya to continue with our discussion of what we can do about it.
Thank you so much. Let's see. All right, so now what? Andrea gave us some great information and great knowledge about inactivity and the problem. We know the basic recommendations and the benefits of what physical activity can bring to us, but it's not that simple. As we know, as many things happen in our lives, knowledge doesn't always equal action. And before I get into the resources available, I would be remiss to not talk about a little bit about motivation. And finding your why is often the biggest hurdle you must overcome. So first, I want to hear from you once again. What are some of the things that may be keeping you from getting physically active and incorporating movement in your life? And if you are more physically active right now, what were some of the things that were keeping you from getting physically active? Go ahead and type it in the chat. Soreness the next day, more time, physical limitations, and ability to have access to the gym. Some people have more time now to work out, which helps, but before, time may have been a limitation. Awesome. Thank you, guys. So there's a lot of things that can stop us from working out. So we mentioned a few of them in the chat, but I'm going to just list a couple that have stopped me from working out in the past. Fear of getting injured again, having low energy, no motivation, limitations in mobility, somebody mentioned, lack of time, someone also mentioned, weather, loss of momentum, and also things like family responsibilities, not having equipment, and lack of social support. So There are a lot of reasons why we don't get physically active, and they're all valid in their own way. And today we're going to discuss some of the resources and ideas that can help us to get more physically active. But like I mentioned before, finding our why we want to get physically active is also very important. So I don't want to leave us with just what's stopping us. I also want to hear from you on finding your why. So as I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the shelter in place, I found my why when I was injured and stuck at home with a lot of time on my hand. At the time, I thought my why was trying to control something in such an uncertain time. But before I dive into what it seems to be what my real why is, I want to hear from you. What are the reasons that you want to get active? What has made you more physically active now? Is it because of you want to be more mobile? You want to be a role model for your family? What are the reasons why? Again, chime in the chat. Feel better. I feel better when I'm more active. Feel good, feel energized, improves my physical and mental health. To avoid injury. Yep, absolutely. Improve your health, keep balance. Yep, injuries. You want to get over them. Those are all wonderful whys. And it seems like a lot of you have thought about this before, which is great. What about you, Andrea? What is your why for wanting to get physically active?
My why is, I believe it's related to my mental health. I feel and I think better when I have physical activity, in my life. So yeah, it's my why.
And I found that my why too was that I wanted to participate in the activities that I love to do, which is hiking and playing soccer and dancing. And I was tired of being injured, so I wanted to take better care of my body. All right, Andrea.
All right, so now that we have all had a chance to think about our why, we just want to take a moment and guide you all through an optional 1-minute movement exercise. During this minute, I invite you all to reflect on your own reasons of why and use this next minute to introduce movement into your day. So we'll leave the choice of movement up to you. For those who are able and willing to participate, feel free to either stand up or jump around or dance or march around the room or even simply stretch in your chair. The minute is for you, and we encourage all of you to fill this next minute with movement and activity and just reflection of your why. So Maya has set up a wonderful timer here for us with some music, and so we'll begin. All right, great job, everyone. So now that we've gotten a chance to reflect on our own personal reasons of why and living a life more physically active, I'm going to pass it on to Maya, who will lead us through the next session.
Awesome. So thank you to those of you who are willing and able to join us in that minute of movement, we can't see your videos, so we don't know if you actually did it or what you looked like, but if you were able to join us while we did it, we really appreciate it. It's really amazing how quickly we can get our blood flowing, increase our heart rate, and change our energy when we just move, and every minute counts. As we dive into the resources, I want you to think about all the different ways and things that you can do that qualify as physical activity and movement. We're going to start by watching a short little video from Move Your Way campaign from the Office of Disease Prevention and Health Promotion. And in this video, you'll see small different ways that you can incorporate physical activity in your everyday life. Great. I thought that was just a great little representation of all the little different things that you can do to incorporate movement into your everyday, from parking further away or adding some squats while you're doing laundry, something I'd never really thought of, and not sure if that makes chores better or worse, but regardless, it gets you moving more. And remember, every minute counts. So this leads us to talk a little bit about some of the equipment around us at home. Just because we do not have access to the gyms or weights or squats or treadmills at home does not mean we have to stop moving. Here are just a few examples of things that you can use around your house. And if you have any more you'd like to add in the chat, please do. You can use water bottles and fill them up, or cans and use those as weights. You can fill up a backpack and you can wear it around your house, or you can do squats with it or lunges. I have done that before. You can use a couch or a chair, and preferably the chair will not have wheels for safety reasons. And you can do sit to stands, trying to do that without using your arms. You can do couch push-ups or tricep dips. There's so many different things that you can do. If you have access to stairs, you can also use those stairs and walk up and down them. You can try skipping a stair. And of course, the most important equipment that we all have is our own bodies. And we can do so many different body weight workouts and exercise. And a lot of the resources I provide do talk about that a lot. And just walking more, standing up while we're working. A lot of us are sitting a lot more. And just because we may take some time to work out for 30 minutes a day doesn't mean that we can't move more during the day as well. So there are endless possibilities of what we can do without equipment. And instead of walking you through each and every one, I just wanted to touch on a couple of them. And all of these great resources will be linked in the resource guide that we provide. So let's talk about this resource guide. First of all, this is not an exhaustive list of resources, and every resource is not for everybody. I tried to gather information I have used or researched that can meet everyone where they are at, from chair exercises and just walking videos to high intensity interval training. If you have a disability or limited mobility or chronic condition or balance issues, do consult your doctor before you do try anything new. But you should always listen to your doctor, and you should also always listen to your body. For better or for worse, our bodies are always talking to us. And if we just take a second and listen and hear what they really need, you can get moving the way that you need to. Also, this list of resources will be available on the Zoom Into Wellness webpage, so there's no need to take the time to write them down. They will all be available to you. There are also so many incredible resources out there, and so many that it's hard to know where to start. So having your input on what you have used will help us sift through all of the available resources, or at least give us a place to start. So we want your help in this. This is a working document, and if you use any online or community resources we do not discuss, please add them in the chat at any time so we can add it to our list of resources. We really think that this is an opportunity that we can learn from each other. So I'm going to start off by talking a few of the community resources. First, there is Vibe Solano. Vibe Solano is through Solano County, and they have this wonderful website, and it talks about different walking paths, top 10 bike rides, top 10 walks in the Solano County. It talks about different parks within Solano County, and their mission is to maximize personal and community wellness by promoting healthy behaviors and environments in our county. So on their website, you will find so many interesting information and tidbits on what's going on in our county. And especially as things open back up, hopefully next year, we will see more and more on their website. It's a really great local resource. Another place that kept popping up when I was doing research was the Kroc Center in Suisun City. They have some online resources, and they have some outside, set up outside working equipment. I would check out their website for more information. I personally have never used them before, but I've heard really great things from a lot of community members. And then here in Vallejo, there is the Greater Vallejo Recreation District, or GVRD. This is an excellent local resource. There is a lot of information about the local parks and upcoming and open activities. So this is one of the GVRD resources that they have put out there in this time of the pandemic. They call it the GVRD House Party. The idea is to follow the calendar and the instructions doing the home body weight movements. It's quick and simple, and it's happening in our community to try to connect us through movement in a time that we're not able to connect as much. These simple moves are effective and do not need any equipment at all. Additionally, the GVRD has collected a compilation of exercise videos, wellness videos, family fun, nutrition, games, anything that you can think of videos on their website. And it's a great list of resources that you can provide, and that link will also be provided in the resource guide. I'm sure that there's a lot of other local resources and community resources out there, so if you've used any of them, please fill us in so that we can add it to our resource guide. All right. So I'm going to go into talking a little bit about some of the online resources. I'm going to start by talking about some yoga resources and videos. Yoga, for me, I do incorporate it into my life as much as possible, and it has helped me relieve my stress and support me in having good habits. It helps me with some of my knee pain and my ankle pain, and it also can get me out of a funk when I'm feeling a little bit blue. So I'm going to share with you some of the resources that I have used before. And some of them I have heard great things about. So all of these resources have different levels, low impact, yoga for small spaces, yoga for weight loss, so many different categories. The one that I use most often is Yoga with Adriene. The reason I like her is because she has this motto of find what feels good. This is to encourage people to listen to their body and meet themselves where they're at. She offers a lot of modifications for different moves, so it makes it really easy to follow along. She's also a little quirky, so it makes it a little bit enjoyable to do yoga. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about exercise videos that you can find on YouTube. All of these are free. The yoga ones were free as well. So as I was saying earlier, there's so many resources out there. And when I was trying to research ones that I haven't done before and see what else is available, I was so incredibly overwhelmed. But I'm hoping that this short little list will give you a few people to check out first if you haven't already done so. So on this list, you'll find workouts for all levels again. Some of these channels have instructors that will talk you through each and every movement and talk to you about what you should be activating and feeling, which is a great option for people who are new to exercise. There are also instructors on here who will walk you through the movements, but maybe aren't as instructive on what you should be feeling. And then there's instructors on here that will not talk at all, and they'll just have music and you just follow along. For me, I can do both, and I'm really happy to, when I don't want to hear someone talk to me and just listen to music, I'll do Heather Robertson, has some really great videos and some really great music, and you just follow along with her. Or Pop Sugar has some great instructors, all different types of instructors, and they will go through step by step with you what you should be feeling, what you should be activating. It's a really great resource. And many of these have different playlists as well. So when I say playlist, there'll be a playlist that will just be targeting your core, or there'll be a playlist just for low impact activities, a playlist for older adults, a playlist with or without equipment, lengths of workout. So if you only have 10 minutes, you can find a 10-minute video. And also I've found a really great playlist for people who have limited mobility. And many of these suggestions do have that, but specifically Kim Perfetto has a limited mobility series that seems really great. And one thing about this pandemic that is kind of great is that there has been a lot of traffic to these YouTube videos and these channels, which has made them a lot better and more thorough, which is really great for us as consumers to really find what we want. I also want to mention this Jessica Smith TV. She has a series called Walking and Talking. I have used this before because they're short 15-minute videos where you just stand up and she has you kind of like walk in place and then move your body here and there. And through the whole time, she's just talking to you about different home and health improvements and self-improvements, and they talk you through like stress and tension, or how to stay on track and meet your goals. And these are just short 15-minute videos that you can literally do in any room of your house, and I've done it between Zoom calls before, which definitely changes my mood when I'm sitting all day. And finally, when I'm feeling the least motivated or stressed and I don't really know what to do, I love a good dance workout. A lot of these do have them. Pop Sugar is one that really does have some great dance videos, but recently I found this Fit 711 one. The instructors there are great. The music and the energy and the dance moves are so fun, and the 30 minutes just completely fly by. And this next list are some websites or exercise apps that you can use. I want to highlight the YMCA 360. Again, they have some really great categories that you can check out. And there's categories specifically, again, for older adults or people with disabilities, beginners to working out. It's a really great resource, and it's on their website. And then there's also this Running USA, and we can't really do our 5Ks or 10Ks if that's something that you were interested in back before the pandemic, but you can sign up for a run and you track it yourself and you can report it. And it's just a fun way to try to connect us during this time where we can't usually really connect as we usually would. So there are so many incredible options. And one of the good things about this pandemic is a lot of these companies have made access to these free. Certain videos that have required subscriptions before are free now, or there's a longer free trial period, or they've dropped the price. So there's a lot of really great options out there. So if you haven't done so already, and I think I've seen some in the chat, please let us know if you've tried any of these resources that we talked about, and if you liked them or not. And do you have any that you would recommend, whether it be community resources or ones that you found online? We're not going to be able to walk through each and every one of them right this second, but we will gather them together and add them to our resource guide, because again, I think we can all learn from each other. So go ahead and fill that stuff in at any point. And towards the end, we will gather all of that information. But now we know how often we should move, and we know the benefits of moving, and we know our whys, or we're figuring out why we want to move. We've discussed some of the resources are out there, but I think it's time that we finally make a plan to do it. Sometimes making a plan is one of the hardest things to do. And I found this really cool resource from the Disease Prevention and Health Promotion program. And they offer an interactive tool to help you make a plan, an activity plan for yourself. It takes you through the basic questions of why you want to get moving. So you want to be healthier or ease your pain. Again, the whys that we talked about. And then it will ask you what type of working out you want. Do you want prenatal workouts? Do you want indoor, outdoor, at-home workouts, park workouts? What are you looking for? And then you can add activities to your plan and say how many days a week you want to do it, or for how many minutes you want to do it. And then it calculates to get you to that 115 minutes a week. It's really great because you can share this with your family and friends, or you can just send it to yourself or print it out for yourself. And they also have this really cool calendar that you can print out, and you just, check off the boxes as you get through your week. This can be very helpful to schedule your workouts. I'm sure a lot of you have heard that before, and it sounds really crazy, but especially in a time where it seems super easy to sit on Zoom back to back to back, it's really great if you put, that 15-minute break in there for yourself, and you pop on a video, or you walk around your house, or you do something to get yourself moving. Putting it on your calendar will almost force you to do it. Also, setting yourself goals is really important. And, we're not going to talk a lot about that today. There are a lot of resources out there, but it's important to think about what it is that you really want to accomplish. One goal for myself during this pandemic has been to try to get up in the morning, and the first thing I do is go on a walk. It's way too tempting to get out of bed and just jump on my computer. So I always try to get out, and even if I walk for 10 minutes down the block and back, it makes me feel like I've accomplished something for the day. And also utilize your online classes. as I've gone over just a few of them today. There are so many out there. They also have calendars and plans and great ideas on what you should be doing to move. And if you don't like something, don't keep doing it. It's really great if you're having fun and enjoying what you're doing, you're moving, and that will help you stay motivated. And something that can really make it fun and enjoyable is if you find a workout buddy or a movement buddy, whether somebody who holds you accountable or someone who will help you push yourself to your goals. It's really great to have someone to work out with. And as I said earlier, every minute counts. So 5 minutes is better than 0 minutes. And if you took, 6 5-minute breaks during the day, you would have your 30 minutes of activity for the day. So even if you don't have a whole hour to work out, doesn't mean you can't pop on that 10-minute video or walk around your house or do something for yourself to get yourself moving. Every minute counts. So as we come to the end of this presentation, I just wanted to touch on a couple things. Last Thursday, Dr. Grace Jones was talking about carbs, and I found really interesting at the end of her presentation was she said, people often think that you're either 100% healthy or 100% unhealthy mentality. And I think that that is something common that a lot of us face. And I think it's best that we meet us where we're at. We have to have patience and kindness for ourselves and self-compassion so we can meet ourselves where we are now. Regardless of what are, we all have good days and bad days. And the best advice I can give you is to just show up. If you have scheduled your workout in, throw on your workout clothes. If you're not feeling motivated, start that video and start a timer. You can always stop. If you're not feeling it, you can always stop. But also, if you scheduled something and the day has changed and you're not able to do the workout, you haven't failed. Life happens. You just have to be with yourself and kind to yourself. And that will help you continue to reach your goals and also help you find that consistency that we all so often don't have. So as important as physical movement is, your mental health is just as important, if not more important. So if you have an opportunity to join the sessions later this week, I believe we will see how important it is to meet yourself where you're at every day. So with that, I want to thank you for taking this time and engaging in this session. I really appreciate each of you chiming in. It seems like we have a lot of other resources out there, so thank you. And I want you to remember that we're going through something that is so uncertain. This pandemic is so strange. And remember that we're in this together, we're a community. We are all on different paths, but you're not alone. So thank you so much for your time. And I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any in the chat. And again, please keep adding to those resources.
Hi, Maya. We have a question from an audience member. Are pools and gyms open in California for physical therapy purposes?
I think it kind of depends on the location. I believe that the Kroc Center, I did see something about the Kroc Center being open. I don't know what is available specifically. The GVRD would have some resources on there too, but I will be sure that we put a little something in the resource guide about that. That's a really great question. Any other questions?
So no other questions. We want to thank our speakers tonight. We really appreciate you sharing your expertise, both Andrea and Maya. And we want to thank all of you for taking time out of your schedule to join us. You know, we want to build community. We want to build bridges, and we want to share and get through this together. And you are as important to us as we are to you, and we really thank you. A couple heads up, we will continue to have programs this week. So tomorrow night and Wednesday and Thursday night, we will have programs. And we will Also want to give a heads up to everyone that we will be doing a free flu vaccine clinic with 3 dates in Vallejo, the 21st, the 22nd, 23rd. These are drive-through flu vaccines that are free. This is a partnership between Sutter, Solano County Public Health, Touro University, and Walgreens. And if you click that link in the chat, you can see the dates and times, and we'd love to have you there. We want you to be well, and we want you to thrive through the holidays. So thanks again. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you at a future Zoom into Wellness session.